Our meeting is now streaming live.
Okay.
Okay, so
Hello.
hi, we did it.
Yay.
Sorry, everybody. There was some computer issues today, and we're trying to work through it the best that we can. Thank you for joining us for another night of the Otherworldly Arts Collective Artist Conversations. And tonight we have Nathaniel. Nathaniel, will you please introduce yourself to all the artists and space aliens out there that are watching who do not know who you are?
Hello. My name is Nathanael England. I'm a photographer, among other things, and I operate under the name of Oniris Imaging for the photography. I have a background in sideshow performing and a little bit of sculptural work and a lot of random things, and try to bring all of that together into everything else that I do. So.
So, like, you were a photographer and other artists. So, like, how did you, like, in the dawn of time of when Nathaniel was the beginning of his journey of an artist, what did you start arting first?
Well, both of my parents are artists, and they were always very encouraging of me to do art as well. And growing up, I was constantly drawing and everything, and my parents gave me 35 millimeter cameras when I was growing up, and I had a really nice Canon AE1 program for the longest time until it was stolen while I was in the Navy, unfortunately. But I don't know, I always carried around a camera with me pretty much everywhere that I went and took pictures. Um, but I don't know, like my when I was growing up, my dad taught me how to carve and do a lot of other random stuff. And I didn't really start getting serious about photography though until later on when I'd already gone back to college. I was running a business, which I'm still running now, making fire performance equipment called Ragnarok Fire Supplies, and doing sideshow as Switchblade Sideshow. And I was wanting to get better images of the things that I was making for the fire toy business, and wanting to get the promotional photos that I wanted for the sideshow. And so I started taking some classes on photography, just to be able to expand on the knowledge that I already had, and learn a little bit more about what I was doing, and get some professional training on it, because I'd never had any artistic training until maybe 10 years ago. Um, and so then I was a welding major at the time, actually, and taking a metal sculpture class, and a few other things, and learning the accordion. And anyway, I started taking pictures of everything, and then some of my instructors and some of my classmates in the photography program uh, encouraged me to consider changing my major to photography, because I was doing a lot of things that they hadn't seen before, and I definitely bring in a lot of the weirdness from the sideshow elements and stuff, and photographing a lot of the local burlesque scene and magicians and a lot of different things, fire performers and stuff. And so ultimately, I ended up changing my major and focusing more on photography. And years later, I'm doing more of it, and it's definitely become a larger part of my life now.
I just feel like even everything that you just said, you're like, I was raised by artists. I went to the Navy. I was a welder. I went and ran away with the circus to a sideshow. I'm a photographer that hung out with like burlesque performers. It kind of feels like you're like, I don't know, like a bingo card or something where it's like, I just wanted to do it. Like I made fire equipment, and then like, and now you work like in not to.
Oh, you're cutting out. Oh, I lost you.
video game industry.
Oh,
And
there you
it's
are.
further and
Okay.
further.
I lost you for a
Did it
second.
glitch
Sorry.
out?
But
Dang
you're
it.
back now.
I don't know what's going on. Okay. Well, while we have it, I'll say that like we've had this like continuing theme in like a lot of the artists that we've been talking to about essentially like every single artist that we have is extremely like hardworking. Like I feel like we have no lazy artists. Like all the artists that like at least I've come in contact with, like we seem to be working 12 jobs. We seem to be like trying a bunch of different things. And it's hard. Like that
Yeah.
is really hard. So how did you manage to do all of these things and not lose your mind?
It's tough sometimes. I'm not gonna lie. Last year was kind of ridiculous because, like last year in particular, I had just started a new job working for Activision in March. 2 or 3 days after I started there, I was hanging a show for Otherworldly and then continuing to do a show at least once a month for the rest of the year last year. We were working ridiculous hours at the time, still are, but I won't get into that too much. And I was working that job, running the Fire Toy business in my spare time, trying to do new photo shoots for every gallery show that I was doing every month, print all of those, frame them, hang them, attend them. There's a lot that goes into it, and for the way that I like to do things with my photography, I end up building a lot of sets. Sometimes I'll make costuming. It's a very involved process, and it's not uncommon for some shoots to go months in planning long before they ever happen. Right now, there's one that I've been planning with Raven, and we have been in the process of it since January, I feel like, something like that. And we're still working on everything, getting it ready. Raven's been doing this amazing job with costuming for it, and there's been a lot of planning involved in that. And actually, next weekend, I'm going to be doing a shoot with Katrina, and this was one that was planned in February at the Safe Word show, involving some art that was in that show. And I don't know, there's so much planning and a lot of work that goes into everything, and it takes a while to do it. It can be hard to juggle it all at times for everyone. Like, I don't know any artists that aren't constantly busy.
So I want you to know that I'm going to make myself the host on my phone because we're still having internet issues. So we're going to make my host. Let's see. Can I accept it?
I see 2 Danielles now, and that's amazing.
Yeah. All right. I'm so sorry about
Oh, it's fine.
We're gonna Nope. Oh no. Oh no. Hi.
Hi.
Well, hopefully this will go much better if we do it this way. I can actually see you moving around and everything now.
Well, that's good. You seem to be working pretty well.
Okay. Well, this is going to be a little different than usual. So, you know, first off, we're going to do Nathanael England part 2, where we don't have issues like this, and it's going to be really, really great. So I'm so sorry.
No worries.
Every time that I've been doing these, like something has gone wrong, and it's like I keep being like, this is why people have like giant studios with like people that know what they're doing with all of this live streaming stuff, and I'm trying to do it on my own. So
it's an experiment, and it's, you know, these are all new mediums for us to work in. So it's you know, it takes practice, it takes time. This is my first time using it, so I definitely cannot help with anything. But you know, this is it's times are different, and we're approaching things however we can, and it's a learning experience.
yeah, I mean, I keep trying to stay that positive person that's like, we can adapt. I mean, like as humans, we are extremely adaptable creatures, and we can like continue and move on. And it's like, I miss everyone so much. Like Nathanael, I miss you so much.
I miss you
like
too.
seeing you, and it's like I mean, like we have to do what we can, you know, like even if it's this, like I'm sure there's lots of people that like you've probably hung out with like at art shows that like probably don't get an opportunity to talk to you about your artwork.
Yeah.
You know, like you have years and miles and people and experiences for your artwork that like each piece of your artwork comes with like a very heavy chain and ball, like of like everything that exists. And it's like compared to like many mediums of disciplines of artists, like, you know, if you're a performer, your audience is right there. Like if you make a bad joke and they're not laughing, like that experience is like immediate. But like as a visual artist in a gallery, we're secret ninjas in the night. You make this artwork, you spend months making artwork.
Yeah.
To put on a wall, to not stand next to it, to not have a conversation with someone, to not know anything about that, and like 9 times out of 10 they're guessing.
Yeah.
So you have so many things. So tell me like the general thing when you're making art. Like tell me like your inspirations. Like I know you have that performance background. So you say you spend months making sets and planning.
Yeah, for the most part. There are always a lot of different elements to it. You know, and sometimes it's like one tiny little thing that will inspire a piece that moves on to something else, and sometimes it can be a large evolving process. Like there was a piece that I did a while back, inspired by Joel Peter Witkin, and I called it A Prayer to Witkin. It actually started off by a pair of shoes that Katrina had that she was like, we should do a photo shoot with these. And then going from the shoes, then I was thinking that we could do the shoot with our friend Ron. And then I had just recently worked with this contortionist, Jenna, and I was like, we should get her involved. And it just like, it completely evolved into this very different thing from what it was originally going to be, into something else and something much larger. Sometimes though, like, I don't know, sometimes I'll just see like a certain color palette that I like, and I want to do something with that. Color palette is actually a really large thing for how I do a lot of my photography. I'll usually pick out certain colors that I want to work with and plan the whole shoot and background, and we'll plan the makeup and costuming and everything from around that. And then, you know, that also affects the editing and everything as well. But I don't know, there are a lot of different steps to everything. And you know, I always really enjoy playing around with different lighting schemes as well too. And sometimes like sometimes I'll want to do a shoot just just to try out some new type of lighting. But I don't know, I've definitely drawn a lot of influence from painters, a lot of classical painters. Brahm was a huge influence on me. God, I'm drawing a blank on some of them that I would love to mention right now. Gustav Klimt is another favorite. Mucha, and there are a handful of photographers that have influenced me, but not nearly as many as painters, and a lot of influence comes from like cinema as well. But as far as photographers go, Deanne Arbus is a huge influence. Jan Sadek, huge fan of his work. If you're not familiar with him, he still shoots now. I believe he's in his 90s, and he shoots film and hand tints all of the photos, and they're absolutely gorgeous. Joel Peter Wiccan, obviously, but yeah, not nearly as many photographers as painters. Darla Teagarden, I have to mention her. I love Darla Teagarden so much, and I was really lucky when I was in school for photography. We had to interview an industry photographer, and I was fortunate enough to have her let me interview her. She gave me a lot of great pointers, and I love Darla so much. Love you, Darla. But yeah, I don't know. I don't know if I'm even answering your question. I feel like I'm rambling now.
No, this is like, so I think you may recall it was, I don't know, a Gods and Monsters maybe 2 years back or something along those lines, that you had a customer come in that bought one of your pieces, and he was specifically telling me that like he could pick apart what you were doing in that photograph, and he was like, he's usually using a digital brush to get this. And in the background I was like, I don't think so. And we were standing there, and it's hard to deal when you have like a client that's already bought things where you're like, well, I don't want to argue with you too much. But he was like determined. He's like, this is partially like a digital painting, and I think that he should put that in the tag. And I was like, I don't think so. And so I sent you a message, and I was like, hey, like probably out of the blue, because that's what happens with a lot of people, like, hey, why are you calling me? You never call me. And I'm like, because it's important. Just answer my questions. But I had sent you something where I was like, hey, how much digital work do you do in those things? And you're like, not really a ton. It's mostly lighting.
Yeah. Yep.
And like,
I remember the exact piece that you're talking about. It was the succubus piece that was in Gods and Monsters a while back. And yeah, that was how I lit it. I had a fog machine in the background with it was shot at Wild Hair Salon, right in front of their black glitter wall. And I had a fog machine going on, and actually, could we maybe pull up that piece?
yes,
I do have it on Instagram
somehow.
Let's see.
Participants, Nathanael, make host. I have never done this on my phone.
So.
All right. You are now the host, so you have to share your screen. If you scroll over to the bottom, there's a little green button that says share screen.
And I see that.
Awesome, it's working. Is
that working now?
Yes.
So yeah, the resolution on here isn't all that great because it's Instagram, of course, but yeah, so there was hardly any digital work done on this. Most of it was just lighting. I had fog machine in the background, and then I had one light behind her with a red gel on it, another off to the side with a red gel, and then an ungelled light up to the front, just tightly focused on her face. And I think really the only digital enhancing that I really did on it was I just very subtly kind of lengthened her claws in it. That was really about it. This is pretty much how it was shot in camera. I occasionally I will do some heavy post-production editing on some things, but for the most part, I usually try to get everything in camera the way that I want it. I had a fantastic instructor, Jack Mater, when I was in school, and he really drilled into us the fact that, like, if you can get something in camera and you don't have to spend time in Photoshop, that's all the much better. So it's always stuck with me. You know, everything that I can do without having to do more work of, I'll go ahead and do it because it works better. And it's easier for me to be able to get the look that way sometimes without spending hours upon hours in Photoshop. And I know how to do those things. I've had like 5 or 6 Photoshop classes when I was in school, but yeah, I don't know. If you can do it in camera, do it in camera, so you don't have to do everything in Photoshop.
So there was something that I heard from a photographer a long time ago, and it stuck with me. I don't know if it's accurate, but he always told me that, like, photographers need 3 things, and it's technology, the eye, and then equipment or lighting. That's what it was. And like, if you have those 3 things, like if you can get away and be successful in those 3 things, then like you can usually get away with like having good photo skills for what you need.
Yeah. I definitely agree. Lighting is one of the most important aspects to photography, in my opinion. I've definitely seen work from some artists before that they had a great eye and the composition was amazing, but the lighting was lacking, and it always kind of hurts me inside when I see that, because I don't know, I feel like lighting is such an important element to setting a mood and tone, and there's just so many elements that lighting gives to an image. It's really important. It's especially, there are some artists like Rembrandt, for instance, that has a lighting scheme named after him, because it's such an iconic lighting scheme, and it's an important element for photography, or for painting if you're doing realism painting. And as far as technology goes, I think that there are a lot of photographers that have the newest equipment, and keep up to date with all the software, and I'm not one of those photographers. I've definitely, I've learned how to do everything. I spent years in school. I've practiced a lot on my own. I've been shooting with the same camera for maybe 8 years, something like that. And a lot of photographers listening to this might cringe, but I shot most of it with a kit lens, which, if you don't know what that means, that's just like the generic lens that comes with the camera when you buy it. I do have a couple special lenses that I use for some things, but honestly, I shoot most things with a kit lens. I really spent most of my time focusing on building a lighting collection, and that's usually, when I'm buying equipment, that's usually what I throw my money into, is more lighting.
I mean,
and ways to modify lighting.
like, if you're saying that you're dealing with is it KIT lens?
Yeah.
But you make some of the most amazing, beautiful artwork that I've ever seen in photography. And like, and somebody's gonna cringe about that. I mean, if it's working, right?
Well, I know a lot of photographers that, you can obviously you can get a lot out of a kit lens. But there are definitely some restrictions with it, and using a kit lens so much, I've definitely learned to work around things and get the most out of it that I can. But there are some things that you do need other lenses for if you want a specific look. And I don't know, like it's like a painter's comparison would be just using like cheap craft brushes from Walmart or something like that for making your paintings. It's comparable, I'd say. So
I mean, but like, I don't think that always using like, I'm gonna get so many angry emails after this. Is that like, I don't know if I believe it all the time when it comes to like the more cost that you put into these materials, the more you get out of it.
I agree.
I don't
I think it's a personal preference first and foremost. I think that I think for everyone, they will find the things that work best for them, and that's great. Some people work better with finer things, and with photography too. Undoubtedly, different cameras will give you higher quality images. Different lenses will give you better images, or better quality images, sharper images, different things like that. Certain paintbrushes you can get a finer tip on. There are a lot of pros and cons to any tool for anything, and it's all a matter of knowing how to work with the tools that you have and that you prefer to work with, and getting the most out of them that way. And so, I'm not talking down on anybody that wants to use a cheap camera or a high-end camera or Walmart paintbrushes or whatever. It's work with what you have. And like I said, I haven't bought a new camera in 8, maybe 10 years, something like that. I haven't. It's been years since I bought a new lens too. I keep seeing some that I think about, but I don't know. I like I said, I keep buying new lights instead and trying to figure out new ways to have more portable lighting and different ways that I can use to modify lighting. So it's
Man, whenever, we start to get back into being in each other's like spaces safely again, we should totally, I've been thinking about this, like with Emily, we should have like a sculpture class. And with you, I feel like you should have like a lighting 101 with everyone. Cause even like, show me how to make my still lifes better. You know what I mean? Just like all those little pieces.
I'd be down.
Yeah.
Actually I have this wonderful poster that I can post in the event page afterward. That it's just a diagram of different lighting schemes to get different effects, and it's really wonderful. I came across it maybe 10 years ago, something like that, and it's great. So I'll share that after we're done with this.
So since you're in control and I can't do it from my phone, would you mind just showing some of your artwork? Sharing your screen on the Instagram again?
Yeah.
And then,
am I still in control? I know I stopped sharing earlier.
1 second. You are still the host.
Okay. Okay, so then I just need to click share screen again then, right?
Correct.
Okay.
But I have a question for you about your artwork and
Okay.
like of all the slices that you are. So like sometimes there's like people who will be like, I want you to draw this thing, but I want it to look like a photograph. And like sometimes I get a little weirded out when people want to do high realistic like drawings of things that just look like photographs, because at that point just take a photograph, you know,
Yeah.
like you're taking out a lot of the artist part of that when you're doing that. And it's not anything about people who are doing photorealistic drawings or anything, but like, you know, there's usually a little bit more that's going into that. And I only bring that up because I perceive a lot of the artwork that I've seen of yours like being this narrative, like it's this dark fairy tale, just totally up my alley so hard. And it's like you have all of these stories in here, like with the people and the stage, and you set everything up. What's stopping you from like writing a play or like turning this into film? I mean, like some of this would like, I'm waiting for the next like couple motions of like, you know, this snake and this person to start dancing, you know?
You know, having done a lot of live performance, mainly in sideshow and everything, I've worked with, we have a really amazing visual arts and performing arts community here in the Twin Cities. And there's definitely been talks of doing shows in the past of like I had talked with some friends a while back about doing a Grand Guignol style show, which if you're not familiar with that, it was like a very macabre French shows that they would do that were focused on like the underbelly of French life. Like most of the characters were like thugs and prostitutes and murderers, and they would like kill each other on stage, and there were these bloody gory effects, and I don't know. And so like I've talked with a few different friends around here about putting something together like that at some point. I would still really love to do that. I've recently been trying to focus the most on photography, and I have kind of put some of the sideshow stuff to the back a little bit for now. But all of my different loves for these things are so intertwined that it's hard to keep them permanently separate, and they all influence each other in different ways. And there's definitely potential for things like that later on, of, you know, maybe doing a play or something like that. You know, I do love working on the stage with the amazing people around here. There's just such an incredible artistic community here in every medium. It's one of the things that won me over with Minneapolis. You know, I moved here from Arizona in 2007, and there have been a couple of times that I briefly left, not really because I wanted to, but you know, I keep coming back, and the art scene here and the community are the main things that keep me here, because it's amazing. And I've met so many wonderful, incredibly talented people here, and I love it.
All right. Show us some of your good stuff there. Yeah.
So are these all showing up?
Yep, I can see
Okay,
them.
cool. So yeah, these are a lot of these are photos that were shot last year. This one was in the Safe Word show, and this was for the Morning Glory show. And a lot of little intricate details to this. I like completely filled my car full of flowers for this shoot. I'd never bought so many flowers in my life.
So out of curiosity, when you are making all of these sets and everything that you have, what happens with all the leftovers? Do you just have like a giant storage unit of like all of your toys and everything that you made?
It depends. I do have an ungodly amount of props cluttering up the basement right now, and some other rooms too. I try to like things that I can use as regular day-to-day decor I try to put up, but I have I don't know, there are so many things. Some props I'll end up giving away afterward. Some things end up getting scrapped and turned into other things. You know, sometimes I'll get stuff just for shoots, like some costuming or whatever, and just give those to the model afterward. I don't know. There are a lot of different things that happen with it, but a lot of it I hang on to for a very long time until I get to the point where I just decide that I need to get rid of it. Yeah. Let's see. Oh yeah.
So
oh, go ahead.
talk about like that one.
Yeah.
That one I've seen in a couple of your shows. Because like that one looks like a painting.
So that's something that I've been working on more for the last couple of years. Is I've been experimenting more with my lighting and trying to go for a more painterly feel to things. And I've been doing a lot of printing on canvas as well, which definitely helps accentuate that look. This one was I don't know. I was part of a photo group briefly, a local photo group here that I wish that I were still involved in. A lot of the members of it I knew from when I was in school for photography, including my teacher Jack Mader, and my work schedule just made it impossible for me to keep going, unfortunately. But we would have different assignments every month when we would meet up, and everybody ended up shooting apples one day. That was the theme, was that everybody had to photograph an apple in some way. And so this is what I decided to do for that. And so how I ended up doing this piece too, I had the model Dylan wearing this like ridiculous contraption under the cloth. I made this prop that was like a thick piece of leather that was essentially a mask that went over his face and then tied behind it, and it had holes in it. And then I made the arrows out of dowels and cardstock, and I spray painted them gold. Then I took like a hairband and attached a nail to it so that I could stick the apple to his head without it falling off. And so yeah, he's wearing this leather mask and then this nailed headband with the cloth over it, and then I slipped the arrows into the some slits in the fabric and slid them into the holes to go into the mask and stuck an apple on him. I hope it worked. It's seemed to be a pretty popular piece. So it's, you know, there's a lot that goes behind the scenes with everything, and you know, I've had a lot of people ask me, like, you know, how did I get the arrows to stick, or how did I balance the apple? That's how I forced everything onto him and stuck it there. You know, it's not Photoshop. I did it all in camera. It was practical effects. So.
And it's, I mean, like the lighting looks like it was painting.
Thank you. Yeah, that's it's something I've been messing around with more. I've been trying to do more of. That was especially since that shoot, I've been trying to focus on doing that kind of lighting more. It really, where I first started to kind of mess around with that was, let me find it. The shoot. So this was one of the first shoots that I started to kind of mess around with and try to go for more of a painting feel. This is with Penny. And then this one, not so much a painting feel, but there was some inspiration from Klimt. I made this massive gold-leafed background that it was completely gold-leafed, and I ended up drawing and painting different designs in the background. And I wish that I had the file on here right now so I could really zoom in on this, but if you look closely, there are like tiny little half pearls that are glued on and stuff too. And I know a lot of different details. Like it took me, I think I worked on just this background for like a week or so, something like that.
And this model is Katrina, which
Yeah.
she's been a model of yours for a long time, but she is also like an extremely creative human being in her own regard.
She is. She absolutely is. And I've known Katrina for 10 years or so, I believe, a little over 10 years. And when I was first in school for photography, she was actually one of the first people that I worked with. We would just hang out and we would shoot. And we've been friends for so long, and we've been working together for so long that we have this great rapport where, you know, she's one of the few people that I can work with that I know that even if it's a half-formed idea of what we're going to do, we can pull it off. And actually, there was a shoot that we did a while back, this one, that Katrina had contacted me, and she's just like, I don't really know exactly what I want to do, but I want to just like tie a bunch of latex gloves together and do something. And so we ended up doing this like kind of post-apocalyptic shoot, where these are all just latex gloves that are tied together and some bandages. And then I like built a set in the background, a really simple thing, but you know, it's a horse skull, that's a human skeleton, shark jaws. And then I had this couch, and I just like threw plastic over everything, and then doused the whole room in baby powder. And like both of us were still pulling baby powder out of everything for like a month afterward. So it was a nightmare to mop up afterward. It's so much baby powder. This is a jar of graveyard dirt. Just random things. And this like acrylic head thing that I found in a thrift store. You know, this is one thing that we, you know, normally there will be a lot of planning for everything. This was one thing that we just decided to jump in and figure out as we were going. And she's one of the few people that I know that I work so well with that I feel comfortable doing that with. She's wonderful. I love you, Katrina.
Will you show the one with the wax on her?
Oh yeah.
That's right above.
Actually, here's.
And I only say it because like I feel like, if not you, I've heard Katrina get asked a lot of questions about this piece.
We actually ended up doing. Is this the one that you're talking about, or are you talking about the hands one, which I can show that one in a second? But yeah, we actually
this one just because people. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
We actually did this live at Rogue Buddha in December for the solo show that I had there. And Katrina came in, and a couple nights before the show, we ended up preparing for it. And basically how we ended up doing this was I had like melted a pot of wax, and then I basically sculpted kind of like wax shoulder pads for her that served as the base for it, and then ended up melting together candles to go in as we went. And then so when we were actually ready to do it, then we could just rest the wax shoulder pads on her, and then just light the candles, let them pour. But I also ended up utilizing another pot of hot wax and just kind of pouring that on there to be able to really help stick it on there and adhere it and build up a lot of the wax. So, but yeah, anybody that came out to the Rogue Buddha show in December got to see us do that live. It was a lot of fun. Katrina was a great sport for doing that. Yeah, we ended up doing another one right here. And we had actually, I attached wicks to her fingers, and then we kept dipping her hands over and over in a pot of hot wax to build up the candles around her fingers. And because I ran the wick through there, like they were all usable candles. They are really lit. That's not Photoshop. We just turned her fingers into usable candles for this.
So if you had to, I mean, this is probably different for every single one, but how many hours do you think you put into, let's say, like one finished product of one photograph?
It's a lot, a lot. It depends on the image, really. Like this one, for instance, there was definitely a fair amount of just time spent planning and coordinating because we had several people involved with this. And then this one, the editing did take a little while on, a little longer than normal, but I don't know, like just this image alone, for all of the work that we did in preparation and the shooting and everything, it was probably a good maybe 6+ hours worth of work on this one. Actually, yeah, that's not even including the editing. Let's see.
Nathaniel, and on top of products, setting up the stage, like I'm not even just talking about like you photographing and then editing. I'm talking about like all of it.
Yeah. So like this one, for instance, like I said, I spent probably a week just building the background for this. And this was something that was planned for months before it ever actually happened. All of the makeup and hair had to be done. We planned out the costuming. There was a lot of work in picking out different examples for the makeup and the hair and the clothing, and it it's just there's a lot of work that goes into everything. Some of the set building for things can take quite a while. Actually, this is the one that I was talking about. This whole shoot started with Katrina's shoes. And then I ended up, Joel Peter Wiccan used this iconic mask that I made a reproduction of, which is there. Actually, I have it right over here.
Nice. So can you give like a little bit about Joel Peter Witkin for people that don't understand like how important he is?
So I mean, Joel Peter Wiccan is he's definitely been a very controversial photographer. He has done a lot of work uh, with cadavers and God, I don't even know where to start with Joel Peter Wiccan. Like there's so much to say. I don't even know where to begin. I was fortunate enough that one of my instructors in school introduced me to his work, and she was like, I don't know if you're familiar with Wiccan or not, but I really think that you'd appreciate it. And she showed me some of his work, and she was absolutely right. Actually, I'm going to
Do it. And I'm only like encouraging this veering off away from you for a moment, just because that he is an amazing photographer, and for many colleges, his artwork and books were banned.
Mhm.
And then they were also, I know that even at MCAD, you had to get special permission to get that book out.
Yeah.
Part of it was because at that point it was rare and they were really expensive books. So I think that's why, at
Yeah.
least from like that part, but
Yeah, art books aren't cheap.
nope.
Yeah, Joel Peter Wiccan is definitely worth looking up.
And so he also has pretty elaborate sets,
Mhm.
a lot of textures like you do. Like I can see the influence. Absolutely. I mean, like I feel like his was more religious, classical religious in some regards. Not all the time, I guess.
There are definitely elements to that.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And I have to I have to remember my own art history. I feel like maybe we should play like an art history quiz game or something during this pandemic and see how far we can all get.
And I mentioned Jan Sadek earlier, and this is some of his work as well.
Oh, gorgeous. I'm not familiar with them.
I really love his work. It's so everything is shot black and white, and then he hand tints everything, which is it's a very old process where they would paint the images with watercolors to add color to it. And so if you compare, like, this is the exact same image with two different tint jobs on them. And so like all of the color is added by hand, painted on it for those. And that was part of what introduced me to the idea of kind of combining that look of photography with paintings. It was Jan Sadek was my gateway photographer for that.
And that process was really expensive for the time, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I really, really love his work so much. And then I mentioned Deanne Arbus as well. This is undoubtedly one of her most famous images. I forgot how much that one sold for, but it was, this is one of the most expensive selling prints ever in photography history.
I feel like I'm going to call Jackie out right now about something, is that she has a phobia of identical twins.
Oh yeah.
Yes.
So Deanne Arbus, for anyone that's not familiar with her, she got her start doing a lot of photography at Hubert's Freaks, which was it was an indoor permanent sideshow in New York that had various sideshow performers and magicians there. And that was where she went to practice a lot of her photography. And so she started off, mainly photographing sideshow performers. And then later on, she started traveling around and photographing performers at sideshows and circuses. And she also photographed a lot of nudists and a lot of trans people. And like she was very controversial for the 60s, photographing a lot of things that most photographers weren't touching at the time. And I don't know, she had a very iconic subject matter that, like, she stands out a lot from other photographers. Sadly, she ended up committing suicide a while back, I believe in the 70s. I feel like it was 74. I could be wrong on that, but her daughter now runs the estate. But yeah, Deanne Arbus is another favorite.
We've been considering having Dr. Sarah Whitty do history talks, like when it gets a little bit colder out.
Yeah.
And just so she can do that, I'm feeling like maybe we should add a Nathanael with that too, where you can just presentations.
I would be fine with doing something like that. I'm a nerd for that kind of stuff.
Oh my God, let's do it. So this is your website, and you should it's I don't have it up anymore.
It's oneirosimaging.com, ONEIROSIMAGING. I believe I have it posted up in the event page, but if not, I can post it afterward. I have been bad about updating it recently. I need to add a lot of stuff. Instagram is usually where I post most of the recent work. I will try to catch up on my website soon, but yeah, a lot of the most recent work is in here, but most of my older work though can be seen on here. And this was let's see, some people may recognize them. They've been on America's Got Talent a few times. This is Jeremy Kinnison, a cutthroat, and Lauren Grace Anderson. She actually injured herself sword swallowing while we were doing this. I really wish I could zoom in on it right now, but if you look closely at the image, you can actually see like goosebumps on her arm.
Oh.
Poor Lauren. I felt so bad for her. She was in the ER for at least 3 days after this.
What did she do? Did she like actually cut herself like internally?
Well, so what happened was, as far as sword swallowing injuries go, she lucked out. She basically just like bruised the inside of her throat. So like, which is, as far as sword swallowing injuries go, that's basically the best that you can hope for. I know quite a few sword swallowers, and you can have anything from slicing yourself to piercing your stomach lining, or several other different things that can go wrong with that. But yeah, even just bruising her throat, it was like she wasn't able to drink anything, couldn't eat. And I don't know, I felt so bad for Lauren, and I didn't even know that she had injured herself until the next day. But these are quite a few images from early on when I was first getting into photography, when I was in school. And there's me, and just kind of practicing with things, and kind of, I don't know, photographing the things that I saw and that interested me. And here's more of the local burlesque and belly dancer scene.
I love that image of you so much. Like the one that you're sitting in the chair that I think I actually used for the event. Every time I see that, it's like, oh, it's Uncle Nathanael going to read us on Christmas evening, and it's going to be great.
Thanks. This was actually the first shoot I ever did with Katrina. Yay. So long ago. And this was the second shoot I did with her. which was, I believe, 9 years ago within the last month. I've had a couple of these pictures show up recently on Facebook. That was shot in Hell's Kitchen. Electrocute.
So you have done sculpture, you have done painting and drawing, you have done photography, you have done set design, you've done performance. So what haven't you done? Like, what's something artistic that you haven't, like, you weld and you make fire equipment. Like, what is something that you've never tried? You got a bingo sheet going, you know?
I know. I have done a little bit of ceramic, but not much, and it's been forever. So I don't feel like I can really count that one. That's one thing that I definitely don't have much experience with. I did do some beadwork here in this one. I've definitely done a fair amount of sewing and beading and embroidery. That's all sewn onto me, beaded on. That's my hand. I've done leather work. I've done woodwork and other carving. I make my own candles most of the time. I made this one. I could not find a candle that was as black as I wanted it to be, so I made the blackest black candle I could. I don't know. What are some other things that I haven't done?
Okay, well, let me rephrase the question. What's something that you've always wanted to try and you haven't had the opportunity yet?
I don't know. Like I would definitely. I would like to do more metal work in some areas that I haven't. I would definitely love to do more like work in other mediums and sculptural work that I haven't done. I think that people that can take a block of marble and turn that into something that amazes me so much. That's something I would love to be able to do. I don't know if that is a skill that I will develop at some point, but I'm not going to say that it won't be, because it's just a matter of time for anything. If I feel like I can do something or attempt something, I will. I would definitely like to paint more. It's been a while since I've done much painting. I haven't really messed with oil painting too much. I've mostly done watercolor and acrylic. I don't know. There are so many beautiful ways to make art that it's hard to know where to begin. And I don't know. It's a tough question to answer. Just because I'm a constant dabbler. So I don't know. Like there have been so many times that I've wanted to do a project, and it has required a skill that I didn't already possess, so I decided to learn to do it so that I could. So I don't know.
I'm only asking because, like, there's during COVID, I think that, like, I'm reflecting all the shoulda, wouldas, and couldas of, like, what could have been and what can I do and everything. And, like, it's so interesting when I hear other artists of, like, how many times that they just tried, like, you tried. Doesn't matter if you succeed or not, you're just trying, right?
Yeah.
And, like, I think that I forget that sometimes, like, personally, that, like, it doesn't have to be one thing. Like, just because you're not doing something actively at this moment doesn't make you less of an artist.
No, no, not at all. I used to draw so much. That was my preferred medium for the longest time. And I hit this point where, it felt like the worst artist block. I stopped drawing for years, and it bothered me and it ate me up inside. And I was like, why am I not making any art? And then at some point I realized that, what felt like artist block, it wasn't necessarily that I couldn't make art anymore at that point. It was that I needed to move on to a new medium. I needed to find a new medium to work with. And that's what I did. I ended up, like, I very rarely draw anymore other than to sketch out plans for things. And I do miss that, but I found new mediums to move on with. And, so if you're feeling some kind of block, if you're feeling like you're not being creative or productive with anything, then try something that you haven't done before. And you may just find something else that ends up inspiring you, and going from there, and learning a completely new skill, and transforming your art and yourself in the process. And I don't know, that's my feelings on it.
I think I needed to hear you say that really hard. For myself, and I'm sure that there's other people out there too. I know I'm not the only one. And I realized during this pandemic, it makes it like amplified, like there's something about this time that like people are like, you got all the time in the world. It's like that Twilight Zone episode where, like, the man with the glasses, and
Yep, I know the one you're talking about.
Spoiler alert, but there's time at last. There's finally time, and Jaxie, quiet. And it's sometimes it's just not feeling right.
Yeah.
No.
No.
I mean, there's also a lot going on in the world.
There is, and it can be overwhelming at times, especially right now. But yeah, I don't know. It's a crazy year, and it's a lot of change. Some good. There needs to be a lot more change, but is like with the art thing. I've not been making as much art this year just because I take it back. I've been doing a little less photography this year because I've been working on other projects that I've been putting off, and I've been finishing up some random knife projects that I've had sitting around for a while, and making some work on some writing projects that I've been putting off, and working on a lot of other random stuff. But I do have some other shoots coming up, but it's right now there are a lot of changes to the world and how we've been doing things, and even the way that we're doing this meeting right now, we're finding new ways to work around the pandemic and work around our social distancing and stay in touch and figure out new mediums for doing the things that we're not able to do right now, and work with it. And it's a trial and error process, and we're figuring it all out. It's new for all of us, and this affects a lot of different things in life, and we'll figure everything out at some point. But with the art and everything, if you're having a hard time making things, like, just try something new, because it's I'm making adjustments to how I'm doing things too, because obviously showing the work that I've shown now, like my photography, for instance, is very people focused. I love working with people. I've always been less interested in doing still life projects or product photography or food photography, things like that. You know, that is an art form in itself. And I know some amazing photographers that specialize in those things, that can do things that are beyond my patience. But yeah, it's like, you know, I'm having to change things too. Clearly, I'm not working with as many people right now. My partner is a nurse who has been working at 3 different hospitals during the pandemic, and I'm trying to limit the amount of people that I've been around, because I know that she's been around a lot of COVID patients, and you know, there are a lot of changes to things, and it has been a difficult year for all of us, but it is also a good opportunity for personal growth and learning to do new things and do things differently.
I'm gonna try.
We're all trying. It's a challenge. It's a challenge, but you know, doing it makes everybody stronger, and you know, we're picking up new skills along the way. A lot of people have been baking that didn't know how to bake before, or you know, a lot of different things. I think most people have picked up a lot of different skills and learned how to do different things differently that, you know, maybe they never ever planned on doing before. So it's all a challenge, but you know, it's something that we can all grow from, and hopefully things will get easier at some point, and maybe we can go back to something close to what we knew before, and come back stronger.
Mhm. Yep. Or we're all be in virtual reality rooms, which, you know, I mean, I'm not opposed to it, like, at all.
No.
It'd be pretty cool,
Yeah.
you know, like a real Second Life, you know?
Yep.
So, but oh my God, Nathaniel, we're 15 minutes over. How did that happen?
I love talking to you.
It's been a long time, dude. Like,
It has. It really has. I miss you so much.
I miss you too. This is like, ugh. I'd rather everybody just be as safe as they can be.
Absolutely. Absolutely. You know, as much as I want to see everybody, and as much as I would love to be doing art shows again and hanging out with everyone, like I love you all. I just want everybody to be safe. I want to be able to see everyone when it's the right time to see everyone, and we'll get there at some point.
And I do think that we might have to do a Nathaniel #2. I'm really sorry about all of the, I don't know what's going on with my computer, but it's
No worries. No worries.
Well-
Like I said, it's all a learning experience, and this is my first time too. So thank you for showing me what to do. I appreciate it.
yeah. And if you are totally into, I don't know, Dr. Woody has one thing planned, but if you wanted to do an art learning one, we should totally talk about it.
Okay.
Especially into the winter months. You know, I think that's when things might get a little bit harder.
Yeah.
So it'd be nice to have something to look forward to be like, all right, we're going to talk about art tonight. That's what we're doing.
I agree. That would be fun.
Yeah.
I'm going to make you host again.
I am now the host. Okay. We went a little bit over, which means that you may not be able to upload this to Instagram. Sorry. If you wanted to. And the last thing I want to ask is if somebody during this pandemic through the internet wants to talk to you about something, what is the best way to get a hold of you?
You know, if probably Facebook. It admittedly, it can take me a little while to respond to messages sometimes. Between everything I do, I end up getting a lot of messages every day. I will get back to you, and especially if I know that there is a time limit on something, I will get back to you as fast as I can. Instagram isn't a bad way to get me either. On my photography page, I usually check that more than my personal Instagram. Those are usually the best methods.
Okay. So if people had questions about your artwork or how to purchase, or if they have like specific questions, like as being a fellow photographer or artist person, that would be the time that I would say, this is how you talk to Nathanael. So
Yeah.
And I'm gonna call it a night.
Okay.
Okay.
It was so good to see you. Thank you, Danielle. And if anybody's still watching, if you're interested in the lighting diagram, I will post that in the event page in just a moment.
Okay.
All right. Love you.
Love you too.
Have a good night. Take care.
Good night.